What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 54 today to review the Austrian Grand Prix, joined with the usual host, myself, but today, once again, for the race, we have Justin and Ryan, who were here last time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us, and, well, unfortunately, guys, it doesn't appear to be good luck to have you guys on for the race review, because for the second time, we got pretty much the opposite of what Baku was. We got a very mundane race, slow burner, I guess you could say, if you're pulling at straws, because we got an interesting lap one, and then it kind of all faded away till about later. I think everyone was Ryan pretty much for the entire race there, until about lap 70 when it got quite interesting and a little bit tense. So I don't know. Let's talk about the start then. Obviously, the biggest part of the start was the little torpedo that is Danny Kvyat coming in like a wrecking ball, punting Alonso, and then subsequently Max Verstappen. His luck just doesn't get any better, really. He's having a very, very bad season. 5 DNFs, isn't it, in 7 races? Mm-hmm. Very bad. Very bad.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he said his clutch was gone already, though. So, I mean, who knows if he would have made it to the end of the race anyway, because, yeah, he said he was having mechanical problems anyway. So, yeah, I guess he was double unlucky when it comes to today's race. Yeah, I'm not sure he was going to make it to the end anyway, but... yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, obviously he's a talent and everything. I do think sometimes he could be a little overzealous, but it's, yeah, I mean, 5 retirements in 7 races. Nobody should have to put up with that.
Nope.
It just say that, and then you got McLaren Honda.
Yeah. It just brings back to what I said in Baku when I said that the luck scenario that Vettel and Webber had in, I can't remember when it was, but like, Ricciardo's got a good car, nice stable car, gets him to the podium. No, I won't do a shoey. Just want to clarify that right now. And then you got Verstappen, who's had this bad form of luck. So, but positive news for any Max Verstappen fans. Obviously, Jos has come out saying he's ending speculation by committing that Max is staying next season at Red Bull. Obviously, with the rumours of him going to Ferrari or going to, like saying, I want to join Ferrari at 2019, of course, or even earlier than that. So. A little bit of good news for Max Verstappen fans out there, of course, but Red Bull need to pick themselves up a little bit, I feel, because they're going to lose a very talented driver and a potential world champion. And I will say this, Max will be a world champion. He just needs a good car, and I don't think Red Bull are giving it to him at the minute. So, but today he was a bit unlucky. Obviously, if you take out the clutch as well, the clutch issue he had at the start, Kvyat obviously torpedoing Alonso, and then Alonso going into Verstappen, and he had no choice really there. So
yeah, and Kvyat hasn't done himself any favours there, really. I mean, he's not had it's not been a lightning season. It's not been a horrible one. It's just been pretty much he's there in the car, isn't he? Just making up the numbers, really, in my opinion. He got to just double lock up and just got it horribly wrong, like Alonso kind of said, like what you're trying to play, like bowling into turn 1, like. It was another brilliant team radio from Alonso there, but and then just after all the speculation about this new little upgrade from Honda, and then obviously they have to revert for Alonso back to the Phase 2 engine it was, and then just ends by lap 1. So again, another pretty quiet race for McLaren. I mean, Van Dorne did make some nice move, made one nice move around Ericsson it was. Then he got a drive through for ignoring blue flags, which we'll get to as well, which is a contentious topic for Justin, I guess, with Perez.
One thing to bring into this, obviously this isn't the race, but in qualifying, Alonso had the Spec 2 car, but was out-qualified Van Dorne, who had the new Spec engine. Like,
yeah,
that's just shows a little bit about Honda at the minute. Like, and I think Van Dorne as well. I don't know really how he could be slower than when the new upgraded Honda engines. I mean, a few tenths quicker.
Obviously, we say upgrade. It was like, I think they like overestimate how big it was. I think people were saying 26 brake horsepower is really like 10. So
apparently, that the deficit in that new engine now to Mercedes is about 70 brake horsepower.
I don't know. 700 might be accurate.
It could be. You never know. But I just think Van Dorne again underperforming again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, he also is a talent, but I mean, and it's hard to know because we haven't seen him go up against anybody else. his only barometer is Fernando freaking Alonso, which may be unfair to Van Dorn. But, I mean, it's hard to tell in that one because, I mean, he is getting destroyed by Alonso. But again, it is Fernando Alonso. I rate him as the best racer on the grid. He's maybe not the best qualifier, the best one-lap person, but the best racer. I mean, he's got a mind for racing, and it's really impressive. But I don't know. I don't know how much of it is Alonso being incredible and how much of it is Van Dorn struggling. It's really tough for me to tell.
Yeah, it's always tricky when, especially like your rookie season, it's just like a
right.
trial by fire, obviously, basically at this point. So it's a tricky one. It's almost like it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of like Perez v Button back in the McLaren day, in that McLaren era, where it was like it's an unfortunate circumstance that it's actually not a good barometer for how good the driver is when the car is so bad and like not performing where it should be.
That too.
So it's unfortunate there. So I guess we're moving it on from the race start. Well, the race start itself, one last thing, obviously, was the actual start itself for Valtteri Bottas. There was a bit of a debate on Twitter, and, FIA did investigate it about did he or did he not jump the start. It wasn't like a clean-cut jump, as it were. It was basically if he preempted the 5 red lights going out and started moving as the light was dimming, which you're not allowed to do. You're meant to react to it going out and then go. And if you look frame by frame now, you look at, I've seen like a few tweets, if you look frame by frame, the P of the Pirelli on his tyre starts moving as the light is still there on the screen. Then it starts to go out, and that's when the actual rest of the car and tyre actually move. According to telemetry, we don't know really how accurate the telemetry is. According to telemetry, his reaction time was 0.2 of a second, like it was
supposedly.
Instant.
I don't think so.
Nah.
I think it's been some preempting, and I think he's got very, very lucky with it. And there's some argument it didn't affect the race, but really, I think if you look at the ending of the race, then I think it could have been massive for the end of the race because Vettel was catching him at a rate of knots. He closed up the gap to 5 laps to go. Closed it up from what it was to, what was it, 8/10 in the end, going on to the end of the last lap.
6/10.
So,
if you had a penalty, what would it have been? It would have probably been a 5-second stop go.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
If you had that, he would have been somewhere around maybe.
He would have been second. He would have been second because Ricciardo was 6 seconds back.
Oh no! If you had the penalty before he pitted, then because obviously they were investigating.
Right, of course.
I don't know
effect.
when they decided. I didn't see the bit when they said, "Nah, it's fine."
I think it was well before the first pit stop. So yeah, it would have.
If he had the slam dunk penalty, then he would obviously been somewhere. I'm looking at the results. Maybe where Hamilton is, possibly at the end of the race between him and Raikkonen, and then obviously he had to work his way through. But I think Bottas got lucky, personally. I think that's what swung the race for him, really. If he had that penalty, then obviously we would have been saying Sebastian Vettel won the race, of course. And
he got lucky in more than one sense, because he got lucky that he didn't jump the start more, first of all.
Well, yeah.
And then also he got lucky that he didn't get caught as well, so he's double lucky.
Yeah. So in that sense, lucky in terms of for the race, but at the same time, not to take away from it, he did a fantastic job at the end though. To defend for Vettel, because there's pictures of the tyres, like all the top runners were having major issues with their tyres at the end, like full on lines of blisters on their rear tyres. So not only did Valtteri, but also Daniel did very well to also defend from Hamilton, obviously, at the very end of the race. Obviously, Hamilton went for an actual lunge, whereas Bottas just to hang on ahead of Vettel on track. But Ricciardo did well to defend into what was basically the right-hander after the back straight of Sector 2. And both of them held on for respective first and third place. Obviously, Ricciardo, another podium. So whereas his teammates getting all the bad luck, Ricciardo just can't stop smiling at the moment and doing shoeies on the podium for him. So pretty decent. But Bottas, just quickly going back to him, low-key, doing very well. Like, he's slowly just eking into this championship fight almost. Like, he's only, like, what? I think 15, 16 points away or something like that?
I think it's 16. I think it's 16 points. Could be wrong.
Yeah, he's slowly eking his way in. Slowly. And at the same time, Vettel extends his lead to Hamilton. Obviously, Hamilton's race was sort of already ruined before it even started with the whole gearbox penalty. I think it would have been a bit of a slightly different story, but not too much, because obviously he was struggling in Q3 anyway yesterday. He said it was a horrible Q3. So even if he started third place, I don't know. I would like to say maybe I think still Valtteri could have come out on top if he actually did start third place, because it wasn't like Lewis got a shocking start and got swamped.
Yeah.
He made the move straight away on the Force Indy cars very early on. So it's definitely getting very, very interesting. I think a lot of people were thinking, including me, because you two weren't there, but for the last podcast, I thought it would be a Hamilton pole and win. I thought he would come back like he's done so many times in the past from such a down. He would just come back fighting and just go for a full-on like sucker punch to Vettel's gap. But now it's been extended even more. So, I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting going to Silverstone, obviously with a home crowd. And then afterwards, for the rest of the season, we still got a very good fight on our hands.
We do indeed. I think Silverstone's going to be a key point for Hamilton in this championship. Of course, home patch, of course,
He's got to win it, right?
He has to win it. And he needs it massively, or Vettel to have a moment, of course. So, and obviously now, like Vettel has Raikkonen, and obviously saw Raikkonen today trying to hold up Bottas so he could close the gap in. I think we'll probably mention that at some point.
That was
a bottle moment, I've got to say.
Everyone was like, for a couple of laps before that happened, like, oh, the strategy play by Ferrari, look at this, and then Bottas just came in
right through.
1 second, done.
see, the problem Hamilton's got now is, like Ferrari, Vettel can rely on Raikkonen to hold up the Mercedes. He can't do that now with Bottas, because Bottas is now in that championship fight after this win. I think he's now a true contender for this championship. So he's got to do it on the track now. He's got to get that pace sorted and that consistency. He's got it, but he just needs. I think he's not in the right mindset at the minute. To be fair, like he said, I think this morning, like saying he wasn't even thinking about winning. I think he could have maybe had a chance of winning this personally, if he pulled off like a really good strategy. And obviously the weather was a factor as well. Like before the race even started, there was like 80% chance of rain happening, and I don't know where that went. I mean, that never came. I was looking forward to that, actually.
Typical fashion.
I had the popcorn ready and everything for that one, because races always bring out some classic ones. So, obviously, but I think Silverstone onwards, big moment for Hamilton in this championship, I personally feel. And it'll be good to see it in real life, of course, and see the raw British crowd cheering him on. And I won't be, of course, because I'm a Hamilton fan, so... but yeah, big crucial week, I think, for Hamilton next week onwards.
Yeah. And we mentioned Raikkonen, obviously, the failed strategy he had. Raikkonen, again, just a little bit flat, to be honest. And, it's easy for us to sound negative every single time when we talk about Raikkonen's race. But I honestly thought this year was going to be a lot better for him. I really did want it to be better for him. Older style cars, back to the kind of heavier downforce cars. Maybe he's going to like the punchier front end. And right now, at the moment, he really does. It seems like he opens himself up to just basically be that second gunner to kind of help Vettel's race, unfortunately. And he just finishes up in 5th place. Obviously, that 5th, it could have been 4th if Ferrari didn't actually stick him out there. But the matter was, it didn't look like he was really going to challenge Ricciardo maybe for 3rd. So Ferrari just thought, screw it, we'll just try and help Vettel if we can. And it almost worked maybe. There's like 2 more laps in the Grand Prix. You never know. You could have seen Vettel cruising up to Bottas with DRS. So... yeah, and then behind him, though, quiet but very decent race for Romain Grosjean. 6th place.
Right?
After,
and on the lead lap.
Yeah. He was on the lead lap.
He was the only non-Red Bull, non-Mercedes, non-Ferrari to actually finish on the lead lap.
Yeah. He started P7. Decent job in qualifying. And I was seeing some jokes yesterday about Grosjean interviewing after getting P7 on the grid and going, my car's still broken, guys. I don't know what's going on. It's still broken in P7. So after all the issues he's had previously with brake issues pretty much every race, he's gone through and had a very quiet weekend and got 6th place, whereas his teammate Kevin Magnussen obviously had suspension issues already in qualifying, and then in the race, caused Fizzy Fan just to jump off a bridge, and we got a very, very fun team radio of just full out, just fuck this. Fuck.
I was just about to ask, do we need to censor ourselves for the podcast, or
no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Is the censor button broken here too?
Yeah. No, the FIA were just like, it's been a very dull race up till now. Just don't censor it. Just give them something.
Yep.
Wasn't it like a drive shaft failure or something for Magnussen?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he mentioned that on the radio.
Yeah.
I think it was loss of hydraulics, because he said power steering failed.
Yeah,
maybe
that
somehow trickled down.
Okay, yeah, because I think he was he was like pumping the throttle pedal. He was pumping the throttle pedal like in sector 2, maybe trying to see if it's still engaged or not, if it was working or not, to see if the wheel like turned with him. So Yeah,
he
really
gave
unfortunate.
up the ghost.
It's a
like,
shame.
As soon as it happened, everybody knew. Like, yep, and there's the end of Kevin Magnussen's race.
Yeah, you're not getting that back.
It's a shame though, because Haas were on for a good double points finish as well. I think they look they look very strong around Austria, which is quite good. So
yeah.
Gives them both a good confidence boost, of course.
Yeah,
and,
another team that are very solid. Obviously, behind Grosjean, Perez 7th place, Ocon 8th. I tweeted out mid-race, but yet again, obviously, barring what happened in Baku last time out, these two are
Let's just forget that.
Yeah,
incident.
It's just a solid pairing, really. Just that's what.
Yeah.
These two, exactly what you want for a team like Force India. They just want consistent points. They'll add up to a nice total that's going to get them ahead of a few other more kind of, I guess you could say, prestigious teams. I guess you could say, but Force India now has been in the sport for quite some time. But so yeah, Perez and Ocon, another solid thing. Obviously, mid-race, as I mentioned very earlier, there was a little bit of a contentious issue with blue flags that I know Justin's very heated about. Because Van Dorn got a penalty earlier for blue flags, and there was some debate about Perez defending his blue flags. So I just wanted to get Justin's take, maybe even Ryan, if you have any opinions on that. I'm not too fast either way, but, you know.
Justin, you may as well.
I thought Sergio was pretty accommodating. I mean, he was in the way for, what, turn 3? Or the old turn 3?
The old turn 3.
I'm not getting into the whole how many corners are at Austria thing, but
no.
I mean, I think he held him up for that one corner, essentially. And then he went really off the racing line to get out of the way for him. I think it's Vettel caught, Hamilton and Vettel caught Perez at the worst part of that circuit. That's really what I think it boils down to. I thought he was really accommodating. He really moved far to the left at the exit of turn 3, heading into that double left-hander section in the. So I mean, he went way off the racing line, really hindered himself, which makes sense though, because he didn't have any, he wasn't going to catch Grosjean, and he really wasn't under threat from Esteban at that point. So I can understand why he was so accommodating. But honestly, in my opinion, he didn't even need to move over at that point. He could have moved over after turn 6 or whatever it was on the run down towards the penultimate corner. So that's my personal opinion. I am biased, of course, because I do like Sergio, but I mean, people were going nuts about it. I think it was a little excessive. I mean, Phil Reed, who I used to do commentary on in the AOR Pro Mazda series, he was saying like Perez should just quit the sport. I'm like, are you kidding me? That definitely seems like a bit of an exaggeration. The guy's got 7 podiums in Saubers and Force Indias, and you think he should quit the sport? I mean, that's definitely excessive. So, I mean, I don't know. I would have to really see it all over again. But again, from my point of view, it seemed like he was pretty accommodating.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as bad as Van Dorn. I guess maybe that's why Van Dorn got the drive-through.
I didn't see the Van Dorn incident.
Oh, Van Dorn.
Pretty bad.
Kimi just cruised up to it, and Van Dorn basically just kept on the racing line through what is now the new turn 3 at Austria.
Gotcha.
on the hairpin at the end of sector 1, and just basically kept it in the apex, and basically only after had he gone past the apex moved to the right-hand side. So Kimi did get definitely held up a little bit in the brake zone. So, but in that case, like you said, Perez wasn't under threat. He wasn't going to catch. Whereas I kind of maybe understand Van Dorn where he's coming from, because he'd already just overtaken Ericsson, did a very nice move around the outside into the new turn 4, I guess. It was all very confusing. But then he was trying then to catch Verline, and, in the end, he did finish up actually ahead of Nico Hulkenberg and Verline in the end. So it's actually a pretty okay race, I guess. I mean, in McLaren terms for him, but obviously he was still trying to catch people at that stage, so that's why he kind of stuck in there. But it was, I felt it was a little bit harsh, but it justified enough, because Raikkonen did definitely lose some time, which wasn't needed.
What did he get? What was Van Dorn's penalty?
Drive-through.
Drive-through penalty.
Drive-through? That is pretty harsh.
It's like 18 seconds around Austria or something like that, which it's I feel like a 5-second would have been enough, perhaps, for how much time Raikkonen lost. But I guess, the FI, I don't know, they do some weird things. They also sometimes want to make an example of, oh, you didn't listen to blue flags. Bang, here you go.
They're horribly inconsistent. So, I mean, that's an ongoing theme.
Well, yeah, we've seen that in previous
and stuff,
races.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I just behind the two Force Indias, then you've got Felipe Massa and Lance Stroll, 9th and 10th, which actually more so than Force India and Grosjean perhaps is a real good story for Williams, because they were bloody nowhere in qualifying.
They didn't even make it out of Q1.
Even bringing upgrades.
Yeah, even bringing upgrades. And Paddy Lowe was saying just before the race that he had some very bad memories back to when Mercedes just couldn't find the reason for their lack of performance in Singapore when he was at Mercedes. And when, Vettel was just dominating that Grand Prix back in Singapore, and he was like, yeah, it's basically the same thing. We just don't know why. We turned up to the circuit on Friday and we were slow. The entire weekend we've been slow, so we just don't know. And I guess they found the reason why they were slow, because he also said in that interview that, these sort of phases when you get this sort of problem where you just don't know why, it's one of those Grand Prix where this is where you're going to learn, and it's going to really probably set you up for the future to actually perform better. So sometimes it's better to have those sort of moments where you're like, guys, what do we do with the car? We broke it. So yeah, 9th to 10th. I mean, they got there pretty rapidly in opening laps, did they not? They got up to at least 11th or 12th,
like top 12. I think
opening lap. So brilliant job for those two. And then behind, Palmer did not DNF and finished ahead of Hulkenberg. What is life?
Madness.
11th place.
Madness. I did see someone in our F1 community. I don't know who it was, but he tweeted out saying if Palmer got a point, and I was really hoping this would happen, he would get a tattoo of Palmer on him at some point. So.
I think that was Aaron.
I don't know. I don't know who it was, but that would have been historical. I was actually supporting Jody and Palmer for one race because I would love to see that happen and to see a big Jody and Palmer face on him. So.
Yeah.
But good for Palmer though, especially with
that was with Aaron Gillard.
With the big
_17.
With the big rumor, obviously, about Robert Kubica in the background. Obviously, maybe Renault next season, potentially. I would love to see that, of course. But for Palmer, big wake-up call today. Big wake-up call. He didn't get any points, but he finished, and he beat... I think, did he beat... He beat Hulkenberg as well, I think, today.
Yes, he did. He did.
So.
But I think that's more due to Hulkenberg struggling than anything else.
It was a rubbish strategy, though, for Hulkenberg. I think he was always struggling. He did a decent enough job, I guess, with the Renault car he had, but then the strategy he picked was basically, I think Niren tweeted quite early on Twitter, basically Hulkenberg pit very early, and actually all that did was made him susceptible to blue flags because it's such a short lap.
Yeah.
So I think he just literally couldn't push on to maybe catch other cars really as rapidly as he wanted to on that strategy. So just poor decision making really from that side of the garage for Renault. And then Verline and Ericsson had a quiet race in 14th, 15th, kind of. Unfortunately, what I expected this time around, Verline couldn't have any kind of superstar story like he had at last year's Austrian Grand Prix. There was no rain, there was no hectic qualifying, and the Sauber, relative to the rest of the grid, I think is worse than really the manner was to the rest of the grid last year, especially around Austria. So, unfortunate, quiet race there. We mentioned Kvyat with the crash. Carlos Sainz, also another man who gave us a nice bit of team radio, the most sarcastic, glorious race, isn't it? It's a glorious day. Great. He's got wheeled back into the garage.
A weekend to forget for Carlos Sainz, I tell you.
Like, a weekend to forget for Toro Rosso
in general.
I
like both of them, which is weird. I know a lot of people don't like Kvyat now.
I like him as a person. I just think he's not doing himself favours in this season, where pretty much he's very much under pressure from Pierre Gasly, just waiting in the wings, basically. So
if I'm going to be brutally honest, he will lose his seat next year, Kvyat. I'm just going to say it right now.
I agree.
Because it's now this period of the Toro Rosso scheme where 3 seasons and then they're like, okay, you can either go or you stay or whatever. I think he's going to go. I think Sainz will go as well. I think it all depends on the top teams, what they do in terms of driver markets. But it's either Sainz goes to another team or he stays at Toro Rosso.
Or he stays at Toro Rosso and gets on some antidepressants because he's hit out so many times now this season about wanting a top drive, wanting more, and it's just unfortunate because apart from the DNFs and the little kind of incidents he's had at Bahrain and Spain, he's had some very, very solid results for where that Toro Rosso car realistically actually is. If you look at Kvyat's performance and relative, that car it's not as great as people were hoping, as I was hoping maybe. They haven't really made that step up that they kind of promised this year. So he's done a fabulous job so far, I think. So it's unfortunate for him. And then obviously we mentioned Magnussen, Alonso, Verstappen. That rounds out the entire grid, those guys retiring. Verstappen, just quickly going back to him for a sec, he was very, very upset and kind of sorry for the fans because the fans that turned out for him this race were insane. Like that entire patch of orange T-shirts. That was actually mad.
Like one part of grandstand was just all orange. It's like
it's crazy.
But like
crazy.
One tweet I found quite funny about, which actually did happen, of course, was Tom's, and it would have been nice if Tom was on here. Of if Verstappen retired from the race and there was like a Simpsons gif or something like that with all the pitchforks and all that coming down like that.
He quote tweeted the picture of the grandstand gone, if he DNFs ... and then people just replied with like pitchforks and rioting and just everything.
But
really
fair play to them, they all stayed. cheered.
Yeah, I mean,
Red Bull.
I would have been I would have been very, very disappointed. So gutting for any Verstappen fans in the comments as well. But especially those who paid good money to go to the Grand Prix, that must be very, very sad for them. Just be like, oh, our man's out. It's basically like
he should have gone in the stands.
It's like how
Alonso
I felt
in Canada.
It's like how I felt at the 2015 British Grand Prix when I went there in person with Ryan and like Matt and all them. And Button was out in the first lap. Basically, everyone would... And it was worse for me, because obviously, those guys, okay, I don't know, maybe people are tweeting those guys, but obviously I have a following in the F1 community, so people started just tweeting me on lap 1 while I was there mid-grandstand, just like, you must be really sad. I just turned off Twitter for the rest of the race. I was like...
Same thing happens to me whenever anything happens to Perez. I just get inundated with tweets. I'm like, yes, I know it happened. I know.
Yeah, it's gutting when your guy just goes out first lap. It's like, I didn't even get at least those fans sort of would have seen half Verstappen's car like into turn 1 because they looked right to them. when Button went out in Village and we were sat at Luffield, so I didn't even see him. I saw him on the screen out of the Grand Prix. So yeah, I can feel for them. So that was a little bit disappointing. I'm just reading through as we sort of wrap it up really, because that was pretty much that all went down in the race. To be honest, it was quite very very 2017 dirty air fest for most of the race. But just looking through like some of the pundits on Sky talking about Kvyat obviously on thin ice now. Damon Hill saying that he's basically much picked up every mistake in the book for like drivers to make throughout their careers. He's just racking them up in a little tally at the moment.
Thin ice. I think he's treading water at this point. Like
the ice is melted underneath it.
The ice is broken. He is waist deep in frozen water right now.
Could we see another repeat of last year? He gets dropped after Russia last year. Are we going to see that again if he keeps this torpedoing?
Drop mid-season for Gasly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That would be good. That would be. I would like to see it.
Was more of a rising star. I don't think Gasly is as much of like like we gotta get him in F1 as Verstappen was. Because Verstappen was like dominating.
I think that was that, and also there was that threat of obviously he could have gone into the Ferrari kind of realm of things potentially, or he could have just maybe gone to Mercedes or something. I think there was that more kind of like, oh, we might lose him here if we don't get him.
I expect Kvyat at Sauber. Because I mean, he probably has some form of Russian backing or can get it.
Who would you get out though? Ericsson's bringing the money in for Sauber, and then you've got Verline, who's. I think he's talented. I think he should be higher.
Well, yeah, the Mercedes kind of pile on the pressure for him to be
Mercedes is paying for
that's the
Verline.
problem.
So yeah, it would be Ericsson. So, but I mean, if he can come up with as much money as Ericsson is contributing for his Sauber seat, I could totally see Kvyat at Sauber. But I mean, that's like his only option.
It's a shame that we're debating two drivers on how much money they're bringing to the bloody table. Like,
well, put it this way. Obviously, I don't know if you two heard about this Chinese team that are apparently going to be coming in F1 in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Apparently,
there's a Twitter account for it.
Yeah, apparently today as well. This guy called Zoran Stefanich, or whatever his name is, who tried to get. Do you remember Stefan GP? They tried to get into the
Italian team.
They tried to get in 2010. Well, apparently he's revealed plans for a new attempt to get into F1 after speaking to Ross Brawn this weekend as a potential 2019.
Well, there's more seats. There's less frustration for some of those drivers who get cut off basically and just don't have a. There's just too many drivers for too little seats. In a way.
Be intriguing though, because like obviously that team is Italian, so obviously I think maybe like Charles Leclerc or something. They may have the Ferrari backing, maybe Ferrari engines. Maybe he could go in there. He's doing well in F2 as well. I really rate him a lot.
He is.
You got Giovinazzi.
He's messing stuff up in F2.
You've got Giovinazzi as well. He's doing well as well. So and then obviously you got China F1. I don't know if he's going to go to China F1. Maybe some Chinese drivers or something like that. Get the exposure of the country over there. But I don't know. But
Ma Qinghua.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, but it opens 4 seats, though, to be fair. So, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we, I think. So.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I don't think of anything much else in the Austrian Grand Prix, so maybe not the most electric Grand Prix, but it means quite a bit, actually, for the championship, just making it a bit more interesting now, because you've got Valtteri slowly coming up into the fray. Damon Hill just going back to what he said, because I'm just looking on the left here just to give us a bit more of a talking point. Again, he's kind of agreed with what we've said. Like, he's not going to let this opportunity go now. He has to know right now, after this second win, that he's sort of in here now. And if he just keeps it up, if he gets another win at some point soon, he's right there. So
momentum.
Yeah, he's got to make sure that he really just doesn't slip back into what I would imagine would be an easy mentality of, I'm a teammate with Lewis Hamilton. He's been here for a lot longer now. I'm just the 1-year guy potentially. Let's just be the team player. I think if he gets a bit more, you know, I would say aggressive, but he's a Finn, so he's just going to do his business. But if he just continues doing that, he's right there. And obviously Hamilton now, as we mentioned, yeah, he's just said, I'm just reading a quote now. He says, congrats to Valtteri, good solid job. It was a pretty average race for him, so he's been pretty damn honest, yeah. And he says, not thinking about anything much. 20 points is a long way down to go, but it's a constant challenge and it's a long way to go. Pretty much the same kind of fighting talk, I guess, as we hear most of the time. There is a long way to go, so it's not out. It's still not over, but it just means it's definitely going to get a lot more interesting with Vettel just chipping away at that lead and getting that longer and longer. So for the next time, for the British Grand Prix, as Ryan said, that you know, he needs to basically get that win. He needs to get pole on the win and fastest lap, pretty much, and slam it out of the park. Yep, pretty much.
I mean, barring any like mechanical failures.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
he must do it. I mean, he's so good at Silverstone too. He just feeds off that energy.
Isn't he going for like 4 in a row or something? Like 4 wins in a row at Silverstone?
It will be 2014, 15, 60. Yeah, it would be 4 in a row.
Yeah, this would be 4 in a row.
But you never know. The British weather could play a factor as well. You never know. Obviously, I don't want that.
Which would mean he would win by like a minute and a half.
Yep. Or maybe the chaotic race that me and Arav went to in 2014, when it just started pouring it down like one half of the track, and then the other half was like bone dry. And
yeah, 15. Yeah, with Vettel and the two.
Was it 15 or was it?
It was 15. It's 15.
Oh, it's 15. Yeah.
With the two Williams cars making a cracking start. But
yeah, we're gonna. You know how excited I got at that point. You know.
Yeah, Ryan was like, "Oh, I'm hard. The Williams cars. Oh my god,
Bottas gone."
So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up talking about the British Grand Prix. There won't be a podcast per se for that because, as Ryan actually mentioned, me and Ryan and a few other people are actually going to the British Grand Prix in person. Unfortunately, Justin is not making the flight over. You absolute bastards. How selfish are you not making the flight over?
20
going all that way. So yeah, there's not going to be a podcast per se because we'll be there till the Monday after the race. But I'll be trying to maybe convince these guys to do a little vlog video of our reaction on the Sunday. So you may see that video at some point, but there will be no podcast, basically official podcast next week. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time, I guess, for the off-race week podcast, and we'll review the Grand Prix kind of then. But anyway, if you have enjoyed this one, hit that like button. Let us know what you thought about anything we talked about in the comments below. Check these guys out. Links in the description and the Twitter above their heads, as always. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.